Alright guys, so let's take a closer look at Pat Metheny's Have You Heard solo. I mean, needless to say, if you're the person watching this, you already know that Have You Heard is the title track of Pat Metheny's 1989 release Letter From Home. Now, if you haven't checked the videos Pat Metheny's Technique Part 1 and Part 2 that I did earlier, please do check them out first because they're kind of mandatory before going into this solo here. All the little things I talked about in these technique videos will show up and connect in this solo. So again, make sure to go through them first. I will also not go into too much detail about the note and scale choices in this video because I just assume that you as the viewer watching this have already a basic understanding of the chord scale relationship and all of that. And I assume that you are at a level where you always maybe want to learn a Pat Metheny solo but never dare to do it. And my goal is to give you a little toolbox so that you can learn solos of his more smoothly and also learn other solos of his in the future by yourself, and yet you also have the skill to demystify them. So I would like to go a bit deeper and show you another layer to this. Okay, so let's go straight to the first 4 bars of the solo. So the first bar is already a good example of when I said that Pat inverts the downstrokes to upstrokes in his right hand. So this is an easy one because he actually has the time to do it and there's not some crazy chromatic line going on yet. Yeah, so this falls into the category of using upstrokes for melodious passages, right? It's just simple eighth and quarter notes going up the C minor pentatonic like this. So nothing really busy. And then we go to this position and everything is still C minor pentatonic or C Dorian. And the rhythm is a little open and loose here and there, but this passage would be kind of up to you how to pick it because it's simple and singable and there shouldn't be any technical problems, I would think. But when you get to the 4th bar, you will encounter the first busy part, which would be the perfect opportunity to invert our right hand picking and mix it with some pull-offs, right? The last one is kind of up to you, I guess. No pun intended. So if you would play this the conventional way of up, down, I can't even do it the regular way anymore. So we would have down, pull, down, pull, down, pull, down, and then you're at the minor third. So you will see him doing this movement a lot in his solos when the phrase has a descending motion and he does a pull-off on each string to get to the target note, which in this case is the minor third of F minor 7, right? And I mean, he is basically just adding a C7 before the F minor 7, or C7 altered, or C mixolydian flat 9, flat 13, something like that. However you want to think about it, to build up some tension before going back into the F minor 7. So I've highlighted the area where I think you should invert your picking. Yeah, and everything that's not highlighted is obviously up to you. So in bar 6, we can find the little exception to the rule that I mentioned in my technique video, which is when you have a phrase starting with 2 or more consecutive 16th notes on one string, this is where you want to quickly switch back to alternate picking. I mean there's nothing to pull off or hammer into, so it just wouldn't make any sense to invert anything here. So in these cases, keep everything normal, right? So we would have, and the rest is up to you, right? But the first 4 notes, you go back to down, up, down, up. I mean, you could get away playing the rest even down if you wish to, right? But when you get to the next phrase, you will need to switch and do almost all of the things combined I talked about in the technique videos. Yeah, so we start with down, down, hammer. So I do think that Pat thinks D flat 7 here for a short amount of time before going into the G7. So if you think of this as a D flat 7, this would be the root, right? And this would be the major third, and this would be the fifth. And every time he plays a triad, he usually starts with 2 downstrokes, right? So you can see that perfectly in one of his warm-up seminars that you can find here on YouTube, where he does, as an example, A flat major triad. He does down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. Now, I guess I should have added that to the list of guidelines, but I think at this point we already have enough things to watch out for in this one. Now, again, I don't want to get too much into the analysis and scales and note choices. Otherwise, this video would go on for another 5 hours. So let's get back to the technical aspects of this. Okay, so we would have down, down, hammer, down, up, pull, and the next bar starts with an upstroke. Yeah, so I think he breaks out of this pattern here, of this flow here for a millisecond. So let's just do it one more time. So we would have down, down, hammer, down, up, pull, up, down, hammer, down, hammer, down, pull, hammer on from nowhere, up, down, pull, down, down, and then you hammer into the G. If you are having trouble following the topics in this video, or you feel that you are missing some pieces to the puzzle to integrate all of this into your playing, then I would highly recommend that you check out my online courses. Sure, you can learn a lick on YouTube here and there and do some cobbling together, but if you don't have an understanding how all these pieces work together, then none of this will do or move the needle in your guitar playing, and everything will end up as a drop in the ocean. Don't be just a lifestyle guitar player who watches video after video for entertainment without ever getting anywhere. So treat your passion like a pro. At the end of the day, we all want to see real progress and know that we are on our path. And I will try my best to provide you with free content on here as much as possible. But if you are serious about evolving into a more advanced player, then I can't stress enough to you to join one of my online courses. I'll be with you every step of the way to help you finally unleash your full potential, and you can find the links in the description down below. Check out anrimaruyama.com to learn more about my online courses. So now the C here on the third string would fall into the category of hammer-ons from nowhere. So we just hammer this note from out of nowhere, and then we're back into picking everything starting with up in this case, right? So you can see that this little hammer out of nowhere bought you that millisecond to keep the flow going. Yeah, if I would have picked that note, the whole thing would have probably fallen apart, or would have at least interrupted that flow. Okay, so let's go maybe one more time from bar 9 here for a second. So we had up, down, hammer, down, hammer, down, pull, hammer from nowhere, up, down, pull, down, and then you hammer into the G, and then we're in the next bar, and here we come down B flat, up G, down G flat, and here we go into the descending third slick, so we pull off to F, hammer on from nowhere, down E, hammer again, and then we're on this augmented triad, right? And this last area is kind of basically up to you. Now, if you feel that there's too much hammering going on, simply add just a few attacks here and there. I mean, whatever you can catch, I guess, yeah? But you will notice that it will interrupt that flow I talked about in the earlier videos. It's almost like you are switching the gear in your car while driving when you lose this flow. Now, I don't have any visual proof of this particular album version of this solo, But looking at a lot of grainy live footage in slow motion and doing a lot of comparing with other solos of his, I would just assume he does it this way. Yeah, this is just my best guess, and I could be wrong. So feel free to send me an email saying, oh, I think there's a downstroke in bar 417 on chord XYZ. Yeah, I'll be happy to geek out with you on these things. But for now, let's just do it my way, so just follow along. Alright guys, so let's go with the next busy phrase. Yeah, so when it comes to the right hand, the first bar of this is basically, I guess, kind of up to you. Yeah, so this whole one more time maybe. Yeah, so that's great rhythm on that bar, by the way, by him. Yeah, but right at the beginning of the next bar, you will encounter 4 consecutive 16th notes on one string again. So yeah, so we will switch to alternate picking there first, second, right? So this whole, so that one would be down, up, down, up, down. Yeah, so the totally regular thing. So in context, that means like this. And right after that, we will switch everything back to the inverted picking, right? So we would have down, slide, hammer on from nowhere, up, down, slide, down, hammer, down, and then you're in the next bar. Yeah, so one more time maybe. And bar 15 is the perfect example of that flow that I was talking about earlier, right? So we would start with up, down, hammer, down, pull, down, slide, down, pull, hammer on from nowhere, up, down, pull, down, pull, and hammer on from nowhere, and then you are on the next phrase. So maybe in context, these 3 bars one more time. Okay, now when we go to this next sequence here in bar 16, I guess it would be up to you in your right hand. Yeah, I mean, inverting the picking directions here doesn't really make any difference here. Yeah, but when you reach the end of the bar, this whole, sorry, yeah, that, I mean, I'm pretty sure he would switch it again here. Yeah, that is the same descending motion and the same trick we had a few bars before with even more strings now. So maybe one more time in context, so that would be, and then from here up, down, pull, down, pull, down, pull, down, pull, hammer on from nowhere, down, and then I guess it's like a descendant third slick, so we keep going down, hammer on from nowhere, down again, and then you in the next section, basically, I would say. I mean, you see, and I hope you can actually feel it in your right hand, how even long stretches like this, yeah, will feel much easier, and you don't have to hold your breath for this stuff all the time. Yeah, so invert the picking directions, skip picking the downbeats, and throw in some of the hammer-ons out of nowhere, and everything should be way more easygoing. So maybe one more time in context. So we had. So this part is all upstrokes, I would assume. Yeah. So this is all ups. Then switch it back. So we have down, pull, down, pull, down, slide, hammer on from nowhere. So a little descending third slick. Down, down again, pull, down, pull, and the last two are your choice. Yeah. Okay, so the next phrase. I love this one. Yeah, you definitely heard this one before somewhere. Yeah, I mean, in case you haven't noticed, by the way, the chord progression is basically just a C minor blues kind of. Yeah, so there are a ton of phrases in here you could take inspiration from. So I would assume that he thinks E flat 7 here, yeah, before going into the A flat 7. So if he thinks E flat 7 here, we would start with the root, then the major third, and then the fifth, right? And as I've mentioned earlier, Pat usually starts with these major triads with 2 downstrokes. Yeah, so we would start with 2 downs, right? We would have down, down, hammer, up, down, hammer, down, pull, down, slide, hammer on from nowhere, down, hammer on from nowhere, and then the rest is all up to you. All right, so let's do maybe one more phrase for now. Yeah, so the beginning of the next phrase, I would say, belongs to the consecutive 16th notes played on one string category. So although the second note is played on the adjacent string, I think we can categorize it as this. Yeah, so we will start with alternate picking here. So we would just simply have down, up, no? Okay, so one more time maybe. So we have down, up, slide, down, hammer, down, slide, down, pull, hammer on from nowhere, up, down, hammer, down, pull off, hammer on from nowhere, and then the B flat triad here is up to you again. Same as with the B triad. Yeah, that part is up to you. So one more time in context. So when we get to bar 25, not only do we have to invert our picking again, but we're going smoothly into a long stretch of descending thirds, right? When we come from that part. And then we immediately ascend again after that by using this pull-off lick over all strings that you also saw a bit earlier, right? So when we come from so one more time in context maybe. So I think we hammer into the E here from bar 25, right? So it would be down, down again, up, slide that, down, pull, down, slide, hammer on from nowhere, down, hammer, and then up, down, hammer, down, up, down, pull, down, pull, down, pull, down, pull, down, pull, down, pull, and the Alright, I think that's enough information to take in if this is your first Pat Metheny solo. Yeah, so take your time with this. Obviously, do it slowly first and try to apply and catch all the picking directions and all these little nuances. At this point, we are approximately a third into the solo, so most of the guidelines and little nuances I was talking about in the technique videos probably showed up at this point. So I would highly recommend going through this first part very thoroughly and slowly, because you will need all these little tricks in order to move on to the next part, obviously. I mean, they will definitely show up again very soon. So the good news is that it will get a bit easier once you're getting used to these techniques. I will probably do a separate video on how to actually memorize a long solo like this. Yeah, taking in so much musical information and then making it stick in your mind is kind of a skill that you have to work on at some point anyway, but that's again a video for another day. All right, so have a successful practicing session. I'll leave a thumbs up for the algorithm and I will see you in the next part.